Good afternoon to International Racing League Season 15 at the F1 tier pre-season today at Portugal. I'm your commentator Aaron Neon, or as Jared Fosbury, usually one of the guys who races, but I've decided to take the comms box for this whole entire season as a bit of a shift in the admin role to help IRL out, and it looks like it has succeeded. As we can see already, a 16-car grid for the pre-season round, so we're waiting for, I think, a couple others, I think 2 more drivers, and then we should be getting underway. Also, we're not that far from a potential second tier either for an F2 division. We only need probably potentially 10 more drivers to sign up to make it a reality, as we just went for a couple of drivers to join. As of right now, there's a couple of familiar faces racing tonight and racing this season, also some new faces as well, especially Tony there in the Aston Martin. He's a new driver for this season in IRL, but the champion then, who won it last season, Cameron Young, in the AlphaTauri is paired up with Alfioli, who isn't here as he's at the Silverstone Grand Prix, which happened this weekend. Will Cameron be able to keep up his momentum for this season to be the first the second back-to-back champion? The only other driver who did that was Matthew Alder, and then he retired from IRL. And the past champions obviously has been Edward and Alfie themselves, but haven't been able to go back-to-back. So, we'll still waiting for a couple more drivers then, as of right now. But if you are interested in signing up, do send a message in the chat, or send a message to the Twitter, which is IRLF on Twitter, I believe. And then we'll send you a Discord link, and we'll get you straight away into the sign-ups. And hopefully we can get a second tier on the go, which is something we'd love to see. And obviously there will be a second comms for that. So I'll just see if we are waiting on a couple more in the Discord. As of right now, one has actually just joined. Luke Baker has joined. He is reserved this season due to a lot of people signing up. Obviously, we do have some familiar faces. Big Boy June. Obviously, he was an IRL, then he left, I believe, and he has returned. Charlie is also back again for a season. Hopefully, he can get his season off to a good start. And you guys are wondering why we did change to a Sunday. It was because most of the drivers, I think, have a better time on Sundays, racing at 8 o'clock instead of a Saturday. I think it's better times for them, and luckily there's no leagues clashing in at this time, so it's good for the numbers as well, as the other toxic MML has been given the Red Bull. Just waiting for the other 4 drivers to choose their cars, and I think we should be going underway. And the admin has said we're going at 8:05, so 1 minute to go, and then we will be going. As I'll try and get some of the names up. I can't say Toxic's name, unfortunately. I can't really pronounce that. I probably would say it wrong, so I'm just going to... I'll try and pronounce it in a bit. Billy obviously has signed up as well. See if any names are on here. Obviously, Ewan obviously is Big Boy Ewan. Let's have a look. As a couple more drivers have been given their cars. Carrot's gone AlphaTauri. Big Boy Ewan has also gone McLaren with Charlie. As I just went for Luke Baker now to pick his car, and then we should be underway. And yep, we are now going into the session then in a short quality session as normal, which is like 18 minutes, and then the 50% race, which is 33 laps. As we have 14 seconds remaining, and then we'll be into the lobby. As I said, any comments about a potential how to sign up, or any comments in general, do leave them in the chat, and I will try and respond to them as quick as I can. as we are underway then to the pre-season for short quali. Went for a few of their drivers to pick the tyre allocation, which you couldn't do on the start of last game, but they brought it back where you can either go the harder compound, the soft compound, or the balanced compound. I think some of the drivers will potentially go the soft compound, obviously for the short quali, but some may even decide to go to the harder compound as to have an extra set of mediums in the stint. So just waiting for Ushin and just there to ready up, and we should be gone. We've got 8 seconds then into quali. Let's just wait for them to load. Well then, we're into the quali session then now. So pre-season has begun, and everyone is ready to kick this off, the start of the season. As we'll get all the telemetry up, all the information we need. There we go then. So, 17 people for pre-season, that is brilliant to see. Especially from last season then. I'll see who will be the first to leave the pit lane. Obviously they're going to get their setups put on quickly and stuff like that. But I think my favourites for this season in the championship side, as we can talk a little bit about that, is potentially going to probably be Cameron again. I do think he's going to be a strong contender this season. He's liking the game a lot. Maybe Bran, as I haven't seen that much of Bran with pace, but Bran's always been there trying to fight for the title 3 times now. He's had 3 chances and he's unfortunately been the runner-up. But I also won't count out Alfie and maybe Edward and also Millen. And also Tony as well. I've seen his pace as well. It's pretty quick. So those guys will be keeping an eye on in the pre-season lobby for today. They are my favourites to fight for the championship this season. As nobody has left the pits. Oh, that is wrong. There's a Haas leaving the pits. I believe that is Lee Kelly. Lee Kelly has returned and he's in the Haas then, leaving the pit lane. So the first one on the set of soft tyres, and I've got to say that Haas looks awesome through turn 2 and 3. As if you remember correctly on last game, this cornerway's approach was very tricky on the traction zone, but obviously with this game, different handling model, it's a lot easier, so people can put their foot to the floor a bit sooner than the last game. But we'll keep an eye on Lee then, see what time he can set on the board, as Carrot and Lodi have also left the pit lane, Merck and the McLaren. As, unfortunately, I don't have Carrot Finger's actual name, so I'll have to just call him Carrot for now. But I'll probably get that information sent to me as soon as possible. Just a caution, that is the Merc slowing down. I'm guessing potentially letting the McLaren through. Same with the Aston and AlphaTauri. So here we go then for the first qualifying attempt in the pre-season round. Let's see what Lee can do then. So we'll go on board. There's a lot of people now are leaving the pit lane, so hopefully nobody gets in his way. Oh, they're not. Lee begins his flying lap then for the pre-season round. Let's see what the original pole time to beat. Just comes down the long straight into 1, breaks down to 5th gear there. Quickly through 2, heavy braking zone into 3. Got to get this rotation perfect to get set up for turn 4. Nice and tidy foot to the floor there. Gets a good exit. And not a bad first couple of corners there from Lee. As 21, that was a 21-1 there. We've missed that, but not a bad first sector. Sector 2 is the trickiest part of this track. You've got to get plenty of rotation, but you've got to be fast through this section as well. It keeps the car under control. A lot of traction there on the Haas. Lee then, as he's pushed my favourite corner off the track there. Took a wide line into it. Not bad. If he'd gone 5 then in the second sector, purple at the moment. Obviously, nobody else has gone quicker. As he's pushing a bit of traffic ahead there. Now AlphaTauri there. I don't know which AlphaTauri it is. It might be Cameron. We'll keep an eye on it. As here comes Lee Kelly round the final corner. So we'll keep an eye out, see what he can do. And the time to beat is going to be a 17-1. And then we'll go on board with the Merc of Lewis then. As he's picking up the pace then this season. Didn't have a bad season last time out. as I believe in this game he has turned offline and he's getting used to it. As his cautions through sector 1 and 2 there. So Red Bull and an AlphaTauri have either backed off their laps completely or made some mistakes. Oh, and he's invalidated there, somehow cutting the corner. And he peels into the pit lane as we'll go on board with Cameron, if I can quickly get to board with him. And we do. And he's going to set a banker of a 17.1 there. Only a couple hundredths quicker than Lee at the moment. As we have the Aston, I believe that is Ross, coming to the line. And let's see what he can do. And that is a 1:17.920. Bit off the pace there compared to the top two there. As Lickle is next, or Edward. Up to the line. Let's see what time he can set on the board. And that's a 1:17.2 as Charlie's done a 1:38.1. Obviously that must have been when he made a mistake, and that was the McLaren who did a yellow. As we're going to go on board with... No, we're going to go on board with Usher and the other Mercedes. Oh, has he backed off? He might have backed off. We'll go on board with him then to start a lap. Let's see what he can do. As he's going to try and do a full season this season, as he did sign up last season, but had to leave midway through. Let's see what he can do then. Usher isn't slow. He has got some pace on the Merc. As he begins his flying lap, his bank obviously it's going to be 32.2. Brandon's bank is a 22.4. Now I'm wondering if he's actually made a mistake or he's running a higher fuel load. But then Usher nice and tidy through 3 and 4. That's a decent exit then. Down the straight, and he's obviously 6.6 up on his delta. Isn't purple though. Ooh, bit deep there into turn 5. Now coming through the triple right. Got to be very tidy on the entry because if you make a tiny bit of mistake there, you can lose the back end and potentially get yourself disqualified if you go too far into the grass there. Not a bad part. That second sector. He is purple, 12 seconds up on his time. In the second sector, there's a Red Bull spinning ahead. It must be Ferguson that. See what time he can set then. DRS is active. And it's provisional pole, a 17 flat, not a bad time there. 2 sets. So we're going to go on board with the guy who usually bottles a lot, Mr. Lewis Millam, in the Haas then. See what he can do then, as I believe he has now just been promoted to a full-time seat in the Haas actually as well. So see what he can do then, as it could be a very interesting pairing if it is true that him and Lee are teammates. So we'll find that information out. And that's another 17.102, 1,000th of a second off Cameron there. And Cameron is invalidated his second attempt. Anybody else on a fly? The Ferrari of Justin is beginning his flying lap then. See what he can do, as he was quick last game, as he had a decent second half of the season. Didn't have a good start as he had a bit of contact with Millam in Imola, if I do remember that, in the chicane. Let's see what Josh can do then today. It's nice and tied then through 1, not purple though, as he has got Aston ahead and a Haas as well to watch out for. Nice and tidy. So let's see what his second sector is. 51.9 is apparently purple. And the Aston there gets out of the way. The time to beat is a 17 flat. I've heard some of these drivers can potentially do 16s. So I do expect the times to be beaten very soon. I don't know. Josh then around the final corner. DRS is active and it's only 5th place there. 17.2. 4.4. Not a bad time. Probably can improve that. Is Lordy on a improvement then, as he is on a lap right now, and as his first attempt was obviously invalidated. 53 in the second sector. As here he goes then. Around the final corner. And goes 10th with a 118.6 then. As Luke Baker is currently on a lap, but he isn't the one up the road. What about Curtis? You know, we'll go on board with Curtis. Usually he bottles a lot, is his usual name. But let's see what Lewis can do. Is he's potentially one of the contenders for the championship this season. Last time I believe he was in contention for a title was when he was fighting with Matthew, when he was his teammate in Alfa Romeo. I've got purple in the first sector there. Not a bad first sector from Lewis. He's got the Merc ahead, who's going to move out of the way, hopefully, not impede him. And I was right, Millam is teammates with Lee in the Haas. So that's a very strong pair in there for that team. As Ross sets the provisional pole, I wasn't expecting that. 69 there, so he found a second improvement. What a lap there from Ross. But obviously I'm expecting some of the quicker guys to improve their times very quickly. Bad lap there from Curtis. As we have 7 minutes and 30 seconds remaining of the session. The Red Bull then might have blocked the other Aston there, Tony. Potentially there. I believe that could have been Tony, but let's see what Lewis Curtis can do then. To the line and his provisional pole with a 16.566. Not a bad lap there from him, and he's setting the pace for the other senior. I can set this time. You guys know he said it to even challenge. As we'll go on board with the other Aston then of Tony. Was he blocked? And I believe, yes, he was, as he peels into the pits. Although Felix Wilson has gone on another lap of only 30% ERS. I don't think that's the best solution. However, the other Red Bull currently on track right now is Toxic MML. I will eventually get to be able to pronounce his name correctly. Just take a bit of practice. As Brandon then sets provisional pole with a 16.4 then, so he's risen up to the occasion. So Brandon has kept his pace from last season, it looks like. Ooh, very close there within track limits. Around the final corner of the Red Bull goes then. See what provisional time it will be. And it's coming to the line, and it's third with a 16.770. Not a bad time there. Losing the rear end there, the final corner. Probably going to peel into the pit lane. As we're going to go on board with McLaren. Big Way Ewan, I believe he's on another lap. He's currently in 11th with a 117.2, ahead of his teammates, Charlie, who's on a 17.5. Obviously, these two don't actually have the McLaren seat, they're reserves at the moment. But a strong performance today, and if some people can't make the races or cause some incidents, they could potentially get a seat as he goes third place, a 16.681. However, though, Lee's just set a time of a 16.473, so Lee is now answering the call to try and challenge the top runners. So Lee could be a potential threat for this race. As is Luke Baker going on another lap. Him and Tony are the only ones who haven't set a provisional lap time at the moment. No lap on the board. Fergus' provisional best is a 28.2. Lodi currently in 14th with an 18.6 right now. Obviously probably will be improving his lap very shortly. 55.5 in the second sector from Luke there. So I think he's going to just get this time on the board, but I think he actually might be harvesting his battery. Yes, I believe he is actually. So we'll go on board with the Mercedes then of Ushin, who is starting his second qualifying attempt. Currently 8th with a 17 flat then. Wants to try and challenge for Paul. He's got to find at least 5 tenths, maybe more. And he's a tenth and a bit up in the first sector. Yet again, though, not purple. As there's cautions in the second sector. I believe that is Charlie. It is Charlie, the other McLaren. As Big Jr. has just entered the pit lane, and there's a Red Bull also off the track. I'm guessing that is Fergus Wilson. Yes, it is, as Toxic MML is in the pit lane. As Lodi is starting his flying lap now as well, the other Mercedes. We'll keep an eye on that time as well. Also, I believe Josh, the other Ferrari, is also on a lap. Ushin, purple in the second sector. Only 2 tenths up, though. He needs to find a bit more time in the third and final sector then to potentially challenge for pole. As he comes then around the second to last corner. Gets a decent exit now, just foot to the floor. Nice and tidy lines through the final corner now. And he enters the pit lane, so he wasn't happy with the lap then. And As Mr. Tic Tac says, why aren't you racing? Says, well, I think the reason why I'm not racing is we need a full comms. I think that's the best for IRL. That's why I'm not racing this season. Maybe next season I might return. It depends how I feel. Although we'll go on board with Lordy then, as he's currently up on his time, I believe. Let's see, in his second sector split. No, he's actually 10th down there on his time in the end, so he might have made a mistake somewhere. But he is on a lap. He isn't harvesting any battery or anything, so he is going for it. And he's backed off in the end, so I'm guessing he's made a mistake entering that corner. I'm probably going to peel into the pit lane. That's because the retired from the session with a 28.2. Very interesting, I must say. But we're going to go on board with the Williams. Curtis on another lap. No, he's not. He was on a lap, I believe. He's getting ready to begin another one then. As Edwards also left the pit lane. No, Lewis might actually be on a lap. I can't tell you either. He's harvesting his ERS. Oh, he kicks out there as he's up. He is on a lap then, so he's up 2.5 tenths there in the second sector there. Not a bad time through that sector. Let's see what he can do to basically snatch Paul off Brandon right now. There's 2 minutes and 26 seconds remaining of the session then before we go into the race. So what Kurt's going to do in the Williams round the final corner then, foot to the floor, using all the battery he's got left, and he's coming to the line, and it's going to be a 16.1 there, sets the pace even higher for the other drivers. Not a bad time there from Lewis Curtis. As we're going to go on board with the AlphaTauri there, and I believe that was Cameron. He's now on a flying lap, the defending champion this season. Currently sitting in ninth with a 17.1. As Curtis has retired and called it a day in this session, so he's happy with the lap. Alpine there pulls off the side of the road to let the AlphaTauri through, and Cameron is up by 2 tenths right now. He's found a lot more in the second sector, very close to that white line. As he passes the Mercedes there on the right side, see the Ferrari and the Haas just up the road in the double right-hander. Got to get a good traction zone here to get as much time as possible, and he does. Keeps the car under control perfectly there. Through the left-hander, now approaching the right-hander to end Sector 2 then, to enter Sector 3. Let's see what time it will be on the board. It's a 51.5, 4.5 tenths up on his time right now. He isn't trying to report, even though he is purple, so he needs to find a bit more time in the third sector to be up with where Lewis is. But right now, 4 tenths would put him ahead of Millen, who's currently in 5th, potentially ahead of Big Boy Dewin, as the Ferrari's giving him a bit of a tour then, which he's probably going to take from him. And DRS is active. Until I go second then with a 16.3 there, so I found a bit more time. 7 tenths improvement altogether. And I believe that's Lordy. No, it's not. It's actually Oshin who's coming to the line, starting his flying lap. What about Edward? I knew he was on a lap. He is up apparently by 5.5 tenths then. Coming to the line, DRS is active. And it's 4th quickest with a 16.461. And I believe Big Boy June is next. No, he's not. It's actually Ross who's on a lap. As Tony, I believe, has actually made a mistake then on his quali run. Has he got enough time? Potentially, as Ross is probably now actually going to start. Actually, no, he isn't. He's got no front wing, so he's gone completely off somewhere and has had a collision. Now, is that with another driver potentially, or has he just lost control of the car? Well, that's his quality session over, and he will be starting 17th. As Lodi has also called it a day. Toxic MML, 16 flat then in the Red Bull. Pips Lewis then to Paul. What about Millen? As he's come around the final corner. And we'll also go on board with the Ferrari as well, Josh. Here comes Millen then to the line, and it's only 7th quickest. What about the Ferrari? No improvements. And in the end, the 17.2. What about Charlie? Is he up on his time right now? Apparently 6 tenths up on his personal best. Potentially be a high 16. As the Williams of Edward is peeling into the pit lane. Now the other Haas of Lee, I believe, is on a lap, so we'll go on board with him. Charlie moves to 9th. What about Lee? Lee stays in 6th position, and I believe that is quali ended, unless Bran is up. I don't believe he is. He's 15 seconds off his delta. Well, and I believe that is the quali session over then. And yes, it is. So the man who's taken pole is Toxic MML. As New Zealand Cam has joined. Now he's got to be quick to get in the car. Hopefully nobody readies up and hopefully it doesn't mess the lobby up. But as of right now, we're just waiting for Brandon to retire and also Lodi as well. Maybe they're giving Cam a bit of time to get in the car. As we now have 8 people watching, which is awesome to see for IRL. And I will say again, as I did say at the start of the stream, if you guys are interested in the sign up, do let us know in the comments or send a message to the IRL Twitter. And sign up in the Discord, as there is still potential of a second tier, as we are looking for to do that. But there is quite then, over and done with. Toxic then is on pole with a 16 flat then, with Curtis second with a 16-1, under a tenth off them, and the champion from last season, Cameron Young, third, trying to reclaim his prize this season, potentially also with Brandon not that far behind in fourth, Edward fifth, Lee Kelly and Millam 6th and 7th for the Haas pairing. Big Boy Jr. and Charlie 8th and 9th with a 16.6 and a 16.7 for the pair. Ross then in 10th and odd by the time there with a 16.9, Ushin 11th with a 17 flat, couldn't improve his time in the end. Josh 12th with a 17.2, Carrot in 13th with a 17.8, so there's a bit of a gap there between Josh and Carrot, maybe he couldn't get a lap set underway. Lordy there with an 18.1. Hopefully he can improve his race pace, with Luke Baker with a 19 flat, Ferguson with a 28.2 in 16th, with Tony unfortunately couldn't get a lap together and also lost his front wing in the end of the qualifying session. We'll be starting at the back of the grid as we go into the race then. And let's see what can happen for this. Hopefully everything goes perfectly, no issues with the lobby or anything, touch wood, and hopefully everybody can have a nice, clean and tidy race. Obviously any incidents or anything, any major issues, do let us know. As we're about to go in the race then. As the weather looks pretty clear at the moment, so no threat of rain at the present time, but anything could happen. Could change to full wets, you don't know at the moment. So then, I'll wait for people to fine-tune their race strategies, get the tyres, what they want to start on and everything. You might even see a couple people might even start on the soft tyre, as a soft tyre this game is a bit better than last game. It don't only last like 6 laps, it actually can last quite long. But we'll have to wait and see what people will choose then. As of right now, we're still waiting for the lobby. Hopefully there is no issue. I don't think there will be. We've loaded in fine. However, there's been issues before. Nobody's saying in chat there's an issue, so it's just people just fine-tuning their strategies then. And yep, there we go. So the formation lap is underway, and we believe. Oh, hang on, Bran hasn't got away. He fell asleep there while he was waiting for the lights to go out, but he has to get back in his grid slot immediately. You don't want to hit the Haas going there, because we'll get you TSQ'd from the formation lap, which obviously this game it's a bit more crucial to get your tyres a lot more warmer than usual. And Cam then in 18th decides to put the soft tyres, so he did get in the lobby just in time then in the Ferrari. We'll be starting 18th, so he's going with the aggressive stint. Is it going to work? I don't know, but I'll have to wait and see. A lot of people have gone mediums. Only 3 people like Curtis, Luke Baker and Tony have only gone the hard tyres there at the moment. Obviously you may see people doing medium soft, but I think the majority strategy will be medium hard or hard medium. I doubt we'll see a 2-stop if obviously the weather stays as it is. And here is the predicted pit stop strategies then. Soft medium is also a potential opportunity, and also medium hard, so soft could be an option for this weekend, as the first official round will start on the 16th of July, which is next week. And hopefully we get a full grid and hopefully a second tier. Hopefully we can get underway, because that is the goal, to get 2 tiers again, as we used to have in IRL. I remember season 5 when F2 first started, and hopefully we can get that again. Hold up, Toxic ready in first. Lewis Curtis in second, then with Cameron Young in third. 3 main hitters, even 4 main hitters actually, with Bran as well, and Edward with fifth. So actually top 7. So heavy hitters for this race then in pre-season to start the race. Hopefully there's not any chaos into one. We don't want a massive crash already in the pre-season round. As we wait for people to line up on the formation grid, and hopefully we don't have any issues with it like we did on the last game, which unfortunately Cody's couldn't be bothered to fix. Obviously the Williams there getting his Ushin's been disqualified from the session, so with big boy Ewan. Ewan then has been DSQ'd. Hopefully that doesn't affect their race starts. And Luke Baker's also been DSQ'd. And 720. Oh, then the light sequence is about to start, as we now have 5 red lights for the pre-season round at Portugal, and it's underway. And it looks like Toxic's had a decent start, but what about Lewis? Lewis bogs down, and he's currently under threat by Cameron on the outside, potentially Brand as well. And Cameron there goes round the outside, a bit off the track there, but made the move before he went off track. But a good start, no chaos at the Brand time. Oh, Brand's getting a bit involved there with Curtis there. Bit of contact, and now he's getting destroyed here by Lee Kelly. Lee Kelly's done a fantastic move there on Brandon and Edward there to move it to 4th position. As we can see, there's a lot of fighting in the background trying to get past Brand. Edward on the inside, Millam on the outside, and the McLaren's getting involved. It's almost 4 wide into the hairpin corner, and Brandon then moves into 5th place. What a defensive job there. He's getting surrounded by everybody. Edward, Millam, Charlie, even Ewan there, as Millam then is dropping 8th. There's a couple of fights going on in the background. The Mercedes have Ushin moves up to 9th, and Carrot then drops to 11th, and there's a bit of carnage behind. Both Ferraris dropping to 14th and 15th there. Although Cam did start at the back, he was having a bit of connection issues though, and the McLaren, oh, bit of damage in the front wing there from one of the McLarens. As both McLarens come into contact, as Charlie with the front wing damage on the right end plate there, as he's got the Red Bull of Fergus Wilson going around the outside, and hopefully Charlie can peel into the pits, get the hard tyres on, get a new front wing, and look at the Ferrari, they're losing the back end, but there's carnage again. Carrot and Laurie then, no, not Carrot, sorry, Fergus and Carrot there coming together as Toxic has the provisional fastest lap, but Cameron can't keep up with him, as currently he's already pulled a well, Dell's actually a bit glitched out. He hasn't pulled a minute and 20-second gap. I think it's around about a second and a bit on the gaps. Hopefully that can fix itself very shortly. Although Lewis Curtis's gap right now is 0.8 of a second, and he's a losing time, and he's under pressure again. Lee Kelly, last time we saw him race, I believe, was season 13 in IRL for a couple of rounds, as he makes the move very easy. But Lewis Curtis tries to switch right, gets the exit on the hards, and surprisingly better traction, but Lewis can't hold it. Lee gets the better exit then in the end, the better phase, and he is through then to 3rd position. Lee Kelly is having a very good, strong start for the first couple of laps then, as we are trying to settle down with the rest of the grid. It's still action-packed in the midfield, as we have a Williams of Edward under pressure by Millam, but also trying to fight to get the position overhead of Bran, as Lewis Curtis obviously maybe want to repay the favour and re-overtake Lee Kelly as soon as possible. But however, there's yellows in Sector 2, and that is the Ferrari of Josh. Wonder if there was a bit of a coming together between him and Luke Baker, as Luke Baker moves into 13th position. Oh, and Josh lost the rear end. He's got to get under control of the car and rejoin safely, and he loses the rear end again, as Laurie's going to have to watch out. And that was a reset. And luckily, it's not the first round. Do remember, resets aren't allowed, as he will get penalised. As Charlie then in 18th, still doing well. He's obviously trying to recover as much as he can with that wing damage he had, and he's on his 2nd set of mediums. How about Toxic in the lead with Cameron Young in 2nd, 2 Toxic drivers 1st and 2nd then. Cameron Young trying to catch up. Now Dell's how to fix himself. Gap's currently 1.2 seconds. He's pulled the gap to Lee, so Lee now needs to potentially use a bit of his battery to catch back up on the defending champion, as his yellows into 1. That's the Ferrari going slowly, and do remember safety car is on and red flags. So new feature this game, red flags are a thing. Hopefully no issues with the red flag, as they've just been updated to a patch. Have a look at Ushin, he's looking hungry. He wants to get this position on Millen, potentially even fight Edward here. There's a 4-car fight here for 5th place right now. Bran may have some strong placing quality, but he isn't pushing as much in the race. We'll go back on board with Millen then. Currently getting hounded by Ushin for 8th. In 8th place, as the McLaren of Ewan and Ross Denholm in the Aston, not that far behind. Same with Cameron Rowlands and Cameron Armstrong there in the Ferrari, with Tony not that far behind in the Aston in 12th on the hard tyre, remember, so he's going for a very long stint. As right now then, Millen trying to keep up with the Williams, and Cameron Young has now picked up the pace, 19.7 on the medium tyres, and slowly catching up with Toxic, who is in lead. Gap is currently 2nd. If he gets within that DRS and catches up with him, if you've not got battery to defend, as we will have a look, board with the Red Bull. He's got enough battery to defend. He's probably not used as much as Cameron Young is right now. But DRS and ERS is a lot more effective on this game, especially with the slipstream as well. Lee Kelly not that far behind now. Gap 1.1 seconds. It was 1.2 last lap. Lewis Curtis dropping behind now a bit. 1.2 back to a second. And Brandon's trying to get back into that DRS range. He is back into it as Charlie sets the provisional fastest lap of a 19.411. Obviously with the cars losing fuel each lap. And obviously when they get a fresh set of tyres later on in the race, they'll probably beat that time very easily. But as of right now, then, we'll keep an eye on action all above right now. We're on board with the fight for the lead of the race. Cameron Young versus the Toxic MML. Up in the lead, 6.5 tenths up ahead. As Charlie's called it a day then, he's retired. And I think that could be a minor retirement. Maybe he didn't feel there was any need to continue due to he's that far back, which is a shame. And hopefully it doesn't happen again for the actual race if he gets a seat or anything like that. As right now then, Lee Kelly then picking up the pace, trying to keep up with Cameron. Gap 8 tenths. He's really picked up the pace. He has used a lot of his battery then as well. Lewis Curtis is now under threat by Brandon Glover. Brandon Glover making the move, and he's ahead into 4th position. And he's definitely want to try and win this championship this season as well. As he makes a big mistake there, as that could have easily ended in tears for him, Lewis Curtis, and Edward and Milliman Ushin there, as Fergus picks up the first penalty of the weekend. As of right now, though, as I was saying, Bran has had 3 attempts to win the championship, and 3 attempts he's either missed it or made a mistake, which has cost him it. And in the end, the other driver like Cameron, Edward, and Alfie have won it. However, Cameron really picking up the pace now. Gap 4.5 tenths, 5 tenths. And Lee Kelly is also flying behind him. He's really picking up the pace now to keep up with these 3. It's a 3-car fight then for the lead. Bran, 2.8 seconds. He's still got a lot of his battery left, so this isn't good for Curtis because, if Bran pulls away, he can use his battery then to try and catch up with the other 3. This is what Bran is very good at, saving his battery when he needs to and use it at the best possible time in midway through the race to either pull a gap to a couple of drivers or even to make an overcut in the pit stop or even win the race. But right now, though, the top 3 scrapping away. Toxic, Cameron, Lee, all find out, but Lee is the closer one as Charlie has left the session then, so he has called it quits officially. As we can see, Brandon in the background. Fergus Wilson has retired then. So we're going to have a look on board with Caribbean. He's lost the rear. That's a manual retirement then. He's also called it there. I think he made a mistake potentially. But look at Ross Denham then. He's currently challenging Lordy at the moment. But we're going to potentially have to go on board for the fight for the lead. Here comes Cameron Young making the move for the lead. The defending champion makes the move very easy. But what about Lee Kelly? Lee Kelly's almost sending it there into the Red Bull. He is alongside. We'll go on board with the rear camera then of the Red Bull. Side by side, the Haas versus the Red Bull. Who is going to take the position? Is it going to be Lee? No, it isn't. Toxic then holds the line, trying to filter in between Cameron. But Lee gets a perfect run around the final corner then. Cameron's trying to give him a bit of slip to the Red Bull to try and stop Lee from attacking, but Lee is on the charge. Look at the Red Bull on the outside. To take 3 wide open, bit of contact there between the AlphaTauri and the Haas and the Red Bull. Cameron Puy isn't happy with that attempted overtake from Lee Kelly, but Lee runs a bit deep near the 3rd to final corner, tries to recover and catch up with the Red Bull. Gap currently 4.5 tenths then in between these two as Ross picks up a 3-second time penalty at the present time. Brandon then has closed the gap a bit to 2.2 and he's pulled away from Millam then, so Curtis has dropped even more positions which we've missed on. Ocean then moves into 6th and he is now on the attack. We will keep an eye ahead as well. Right now the Ocean picking up the pace, picking up the DRS, trying to make the move, that holds the line then, so he decides not to go for the dive, which is smart. Not usually go for the inside into that corner because it can end in tears. However, the McLaren of Ewan isn't that far behind, and I believe Lewis Curtis has peeled into the pit lane then, so we'll go on board. Maybe there was a bit of contact between him and Edward and somebody else. Front wing change then. New front wing put in place. New set of tyres, mediums on the Williams then. And he's been released. He joins in 15th as we go back for fight for the lead of the race then. Cameron feeling a lot of pressure behind him. He's used a lot of his battery. Yet again, though, the driver behind him, Toxic, has only got 37%. And he's trying to go for a bit of contact there near the rear end. Got to be careful as well with touching the rear end of the cars as well, because you can send them spinning around quite easier than he did last game. But Cameron then is really under threat by Lee Kelly and Toxic right now for the lead, as Brandon then has dropped a bit of time then. Now gap is 2.9. It was 2 seconds last lap. He's lost at least 9/10 as Cameron trying to pull away as much as he can. As Carfinger picks up a 3-second time penalty. And Lee Kelly then on the attack. On board him, and let's go on an on-board view. We'll keep an eye on the fights further behind as well with Lordy and Carfinger, then 5-4, 11th. Ooh, as the Red Bull goes a bit deep, Lee gets the perfect rotation he needs to set up potential overtake. Gets a good run, and here he goes, and he's going to make the move with the battery on, and DRS active, then down the long straight, goes into second position then. It makes the move done. It's Red Bull going to try the switch, couldn't make it work. But Cameron might have a little bit of a breathing room now. He's got a bit of 6/10. So I don't think he will be under threat this lap by Lee Kelly. Could be if Lee gets a good run. A bit of a different line there to Cameron entering that corner. As right now then, on lap number 8 out of 33. As the action is starting to die down a little bit now, as it wasn't from the start of the race. After we've only had 3 retirements, Fergus Wilson, Charlie, Joss, all DNFing from today's race at the moment. Lewis Kirsten in 15th, trying his best to get a lot of time back and catch up with Ross as soon as possible. And I have noticed the conditions don't look as bright and sunny as they were earlier on. Is there potential threat of rain then, as Ushin and Millam are scrapping around? Oh, hang on a minute, I think there's been an altercation potentially with them two, as Millam then drops to 9th position then in the end. But look at Lee Kelly, he's looking hungry, he's looking feisty on the back of Cameron Young. Cameron's got to watch his mirrors, as Lee has been known to make a lot of dive bombs and are very far away from the drivers usually. But Lee is looking hungry, and the conditions are starting to change. Is there a threat of rain? It was sunny, and I have seen rain now. It is starting to rain on the track. So will it get heavy enough to potentially switch to the intermediate tyre then? As Lordy and Carfinger have swapped positions then, as we go on board. Oh, and actually they haven't swapped positions. They've actually come together there. Hopefully there's no love lost between them two, as now Luke Baker's now coming into the mix as well. We'll keep an eye on that fight. Although Brandon Guller currently getting caught by the Mercedes Russian then at the moment, as the gap to Brandon to Cameron is 3.3 seconds. Gap to leader from Brandon is 4.2. Brandon is under threat, but the guy who is really under threat is Cameron Young. He's taking a lot of wider line then out of that final corner, and it's kind of hindered him. But here comes Lee Kelly then. He's used a bit of his battery to try and catch up with him. DRS is still active, but isn't well enough yet to potentially go intermediates, as Cameron Armstrong there makes a mistake and has dropped down the field. And maybe it was a decent choice to go soft. So a couple of people are in the pits then. So we got Edward, Millam and Cameron Armstrong in at the pit lane, fighting for their positions. Are they going on to the intermediate tyre already? The DRS is still enabled, so it's not well enough yet for the tyres. But we've seen in F1, the conditions can change very easily. And Cameron Armstrong has gone to the intermediate. Same with Millam and same with Edwards. Carfinger's got a 5-second penalty, and I believe Lordy is potentially as well. Got to watch out with the penalties, as Lewis Kirst is having a bit of more horrid look in 15th, has to go back into the pits. But Lee Kelly is absolutely flying. He's all over the back of Cameron Young. Cameron Young can't do anything to pull away. Look at Lee Kelly, and I said he dived it late, and he's made the move. Cameron Young probably wasn't expecting that. Cameron's trying to switch, but Lordy and Ross Denham have decided to go on the full wet tyres. The DRS is still enabled, as Lee Kelly and Cameron Young find out again side by side. Cameron doesn't give him any space at all. I don't know what he was playing at there. Either he was blind or stupid making that move there. Very silly from the defending champion. And needs his eyes checked up there, as right now they're toxic. As potentially will be going in the pits, as it is wet on the track. And then surely DRS has to be disabled, and in the pits they go, the top three. And Lee's probably definitely going to have some words with the AlphaTauri driver as we go on board with the pits. Then as DRS has been disabled, Ushin gets a 5-second penalty. So has guys earlier on the intermediates making that stop gain some time, like Edward, Millam, Cam, Carfinger, Lordy, even Luke. But interesting to tell, Ross and Lordy have decided to go full wets. Everybody else has stayed on the intermediate compound tyre. Tony, obviously he's now just peeled into the pit lane on the hards. Currently going to go for the intermediate as well, as he leaves the pits. As Cameron then leaves the pit lane in the lead still. There's that much of a gap. Let's see how people can handle these tricky conditions. They're a lot more trickier than last game. Got to be more careful with the throttle. Even though the handling model's changed, you've got a lot more traction with the throttle and all that sort of stuff. But it's still, now and then, you can get caught out and either get put in the wall or just spin out of control. Right now, though, Cameron getting a lot out at that time. 1.7 the gap is between Toxic Mamel, and Lee Kelly then drops to third to 1.1 off the Red Bull. And now it's going to be the battle of the ERS managements. Since DRS isn't available anymore in these conditions, as we have a scrap further behind, we're going to have to go on board with Tony then. Tony and Edward currently fighting for P7, that is, as of right now. And he gets away there. He pulls a bit of a gap from Edward, but don't count out Millen. He's not that far off, and he's got plenty of battery to burn. And speaking about battery to burn, I guarantee Bran has got plenty. I guarantee he's still got 80%. He's got 100%. That's how much battery he's got. He's got 100%. He's not even been pushing with the battery then. And now the Ferrari's now getting into the mix as well. So we've got an Aston, Williams, Haas. Oh, Zedda runs a bit tight there. As Karen Young picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. And that is a shame. Oh, Edwards losing the rear end there on the fast right-hander, and a lot of people struggling to keep it under control. As there's yells in the background, that is Lordy making a mistake there. And look at the Haas then of Millen waiting in the wings. As Tony pulls to 5 tenths now. He gets a 10th with that mistake Edward made. As the fight for the lead is basically died completely now, as Cameron's got a gap of 2 seconds almost. With Lee 1.1 off him, as Yellow's in sector 3. That is Ross then on the wet tyre. It's definitely not wet enough for wets yet. If it is going to rain hard in the next couple of minutes, potentially could be the wet tyre, but it's still intermediate conditions at the moment. But the drivers may be thinking maybe it is time for the wets very soon, as they are the ones who are driving it. Only the spectating viewers. Ross yet again is around in the final corner. He needs to get going soon, because if he's not careful, it could cause a safety car. We have seen it where drivers, if they don't move quick enough, a safety car or VSC could be called, and he's peeling into the pits. I wonder if he's either retiring or he's going to go on the intermediates. As Tony then pulls away a bit more now to Edward, is 8 tenths, and yeah, Ross has called it a day then for the race. No takes this time out for anybody, I don't think. He's on lap 13. Obviously Tony's on lap 12. And there we go, lap number 13 then for Tony, as everyone is now starting to spread out a little bit. And as I said, it's the battle of the battery. And Ushin is also just saving his battery now, and a lot of people will be saving. And Brando is doing the opposite. He's actually used a bit of his battery now to try and pull away from the Mercedes in 5th position. And the gap's kind of stabled for the top 3 right now. It's not about what it was last lap. But as again, 4 retirements at the moment. Obviously Ross just retired after making a mistake. Ferguson also called it a day, same with Charlie and Joss then. Just couldn't get the grips with the setup potentially, or making too many mistakes or too far back. No collisions or anything, I don't believe. But other than that, everything else is going good. And as I said earlier on in the stream, if you guys are interested in signing up, do go to the IRL F1 at Twitter, or send a message in the YouTube channel, and we'll try and get in contact with you and sign up in the Discord chat with the F1 sign up, and hopefully we have enough to get an F2 tier. As Brandon then rear end kicks out there into the 3rd to last corner. Finger picks up another penalty. That's his 2nd penalty of the race today. But yeah, we are looking for a potential 2nd tier. Then we need 10 drivers to get it potentially going, potentially opportunity for it to happen. So hopefully we can make that a reality, as Ollie then decided to go on the intermediates. Maybe it was a mistake to go to the full wets, as he's getting lapped, and his teammate of Ushin is going to lap him. And we go Ewan then. He's currently under threat by Tony now, so Tony's really picked up the pace. He's got 80% ERS. He was under threat by Edward earlier on. Now it's changed. He's now pulled away from Edward to a gap of 1.5 seconds. Tony then, remember, he started at the back of the grid with Cameron Armstrong. Right now, he's challenging for 6th position. Obviously, Lloyd's going to have to move out of the way then for the traffic, so he doesn't get a 5-second penalty from the game, as Millen picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits then at the moment. As right now, Tony is all over the back end of the McLaren, but this isn't good for him. He needs to get this move done and dusted because he's getting caught slowly by Edward. The gap was 2 seconds, I believe, just a couple of corners ago. Now it's 1.3. It's now dropping very quickly. So maybe him going a bit slower is costing him a lot of time, and he knows he's quicker than this as he's trying to get past Loya of the car who's lapped down, trying to get under control on his intermediate tyre. As of right now, though, the fight for second is heating up as well. Then I've just noticed as Cameron Young is pulled away to 2.4's lead. Kelly picks up a 3-second pen. So we've got to watch out then for that. As Cameron Young then is just pulling away the gap of 2.3 seconds at the moment. Although Tony down the straight, using a lot of his battery now to try and catch up with the McLaren. Is he going to go for a potential dive? No, he doesn't. He makes the kind of think that to unsettle his line. Potentially go for an overtake maybe in the next couple of corners, maybe the straight potentially in the second DRS zone if DRS obviously was activated. But right now the gap between him and Edward is 1.6 seconds, so he's getting a bit of time back then in the third sector. And yet again Edward rear end a bit wheel spinning, and look at Tony trying to make a move again, but goes back into the slipstream. This is costing him time, and potentially if he wants to try and catch with Brandon Ushin, the gap's only 3 seconds. There's plenty of time to catch up with that. As Captain gets a 5-second penalty again for speeding the pits. I think he's going to call it a day as well. And yes, he has. He has called it a day for today then. And hopefully we can see what he does in the official round next week. Right now then, we're still on board with Tony. Gap 5 tenths right now. Gap behind him is 1.2. Slowly getting caught up. And Cameron Lewis Kerr just picked up 3 seconds. I thought Cameron Armstrong. Yeah, Cameron Armstrong's caught it a day. He's retired, it looks like. I did miss that as I was on board with Tony. So he's gone off somewhere. There's a VSC deployed. Could that turn into a full safety car? I don't think it has turned into a full safety car. The safety car is leaving the pit lane, but the graphic on the top left is still saying VSC. I don't know if that's a glitch on my end, but the safety car is out. The safety car is out then, so that's not going to help Cameron with his gap yet. He had a 5-second gap. And that's just completely been destroyed. And so the safety car is out. Ignore the graphic on the left side, it's VSC. It's a full safety car. People will be able to catch up now as well. People may be able to make a couple of pit stops as well, maybe. Potentially, if the rain is going to the end of the race, potentially going a fresh set of minutes to make it to the end. As Luke Baker in the pit lane. As Alpine then leaving the pit lane then on the intermediate tyre. Fresh set of inters as well, and he shouldn't be getting lapped or anything like that, so he's fine on that end, but he's going to have to be quick to catch up with the safety car, because obviously the safety car only will do 3 laps around waiting for drivers, and especially in these conditions it isn't that easy to catch up, as you've got to keep the car under control. As Cameron Young himself hasn't even caught up the safety car yet, as he's just going across the start finish line to start lap number 17. The defending champion is looking hungry to repeat his title, to reclaim it. As Brandon and Ocean have just swapped. Brand's pit. Maybe he's thinking, well, I'm going to catch a safety car, get a fresh set of inters scored in the end, potentially. And the rain is starting to pick up. The rain is starting to pick up, so I'm wondering if there is a threat of potentially go back into the full wets. Maybe that's why Lodi wanted to go on the wets earlier on, because he saw the conditions getting worse near the end. But he in the end then. So Brandon then leaving the pit lane, rejoins in 7th and lost a couple of positions to Ewan and Tony, but he's on the fresher intermediate tyre, which can go a lot longer and maybe potentially to the end of the race. As well then, Cameron has caught the safety car and top 4 within the safety car now. And I'm still proud actually to hear that we had 18th for today's race, which is brilliant to have. And hopefully we can have full car grids for the whole season. And hopefully, as I said, to try and get a second tier as well. Keep hitting on that second tier. We are looking to do that as well. As we went for the driver's car, everything has left the session in the end. As well, the graphics now altered. It is now a full safety car, so the VSC is gone. I think that's a change, so you could actually catch up with the safety car. As we went for a couple of the guys from Brand, obviously to catch up with the safety cars of Edward, Millen, Curtis, Luke Baker, and also Lordy. Lordy's actually already a lap behind already, actually. He's already with the safety car, so he isn't going to be able to catch it, unfortunately. And he is going to be a lap down the whole race. But Luke Baker and Curtis, I think, had a better chance of catching it. Luke Baker, I don't think he's catching it at all. I don't think it was a good strategy to peel into the pit lane. Unless he was involved in the altercation with Cameron Armstrong, which I don't believe he was. But I don't think he's going to be catching the safety car anytime soon. As on the second lap then of the safety cars, a couple of other guys have pit, Tony and Millen in the pit lane. And Tony has gone full wets then. So, has he made the perfect strategy call to go on the full wet tyres? I've seen this before from a fellow other driver who I've commentated on at this track as well, where the conditions quickly changed and he went on the full wets and he actually won the race in the end. He is the only one though to go the full wets. Millen has stayed on the intermediate. Lewis Curtis also peeled into the pit lane. He has gone full wets for the Williams team. So he is leaving at the pit lane. He's going to have to be quick to catch that safety car because I believe it'll do one more lap. I think he might catch it. Luke is definitely not catching it now. He's peeling back into the pits. And, well, hopefully full wets, I believe, then. Yep, he is. So maybe Tony, Lewis, and Luke Baker have made the correct strategy call. It's not really going to aid Luke Baker, but Ewan then has either tried to make an overtake on the Mercedes or something, or he's gone off the track because those two just switched positions for a second there. And Luke Baker is in second, so I did miss that overtake while we were watching the fight earlier on. So it's Cameron Young, Lee Kelly, and Toxic, with a lot of drivers behind him, very hungry, and a lot of quick drivers as well. Ocean isn't that far off their pace. Same with Bran, same with Edward and Tony. So they could pull a masterclass strategy here on lap number 18. The safety car is staying out another lap then, so we're going to begin at lap number 19. It's probably the last time the safety car is going round. Toxic ML is I think the safety car is allowing the lap car through then in the end. Lordy has gone ahead. I was wondering which Merc what that was, and I thought Oshden made a massive gap. He's got a penalty though, which is a bit harsh. But drive-through penalty speeding under the safety car. He's been given a delta. If I remember correctly, you are on when the safety car's going to come in, the safety car will let you to go through usually. But well, he might be calling it a day. Yeah, he's still got another drive-through. He's just been given 2 drive-through penalties for speeding under the safety car, and well, he's definitely not going to be happy with that, as he's got to serve both of them. But he might also just call it a day in the pit lane and retire, and keep an eye on everybody else in these conditions. And he's been DSQ'd. Right, this is a very interesting scenario. That is a shame for Lordy. So then we have 11 cars remaining then in this race. We did have 18, we now have 11. As Lee Kelly then is getting ready to challenge Cameron for the win. As 4 drivers are on the wets, the rest are on the intermediates. Tony could have made the perfect strategy call. The safety car is in this lap then. Going on board with Cameron Young then. Lap 19. To begin at lap number 20 is when we go back to green flag racing then. We are getting ready to see who can take the lead into one, who can win this race, who has made the perfect strategy call. Has Tony made a brilliant call as we're waiting for Cameron then to slow the guys down, as he has the relegated speed for everybody else. Nobody can pass him and nobody can tell him to get a move on at the moment. You've got to be careful on that speed as well, though. As Cameron Young then around the final corner. Hasn't gone yet. Lee Kelly's getting ready to potentially go for it. And has he gone yet? We'll have to wait. And Cameron has gone now. He is bolted. Has he got a good run? And no, he doesn't get a good run. It sends Lee almost off into the pit lane. But Lee gets under control. And as we can see there, Tony making moves left, right and centre. Trying to make a move potentially on Toxic as well. Round the outside. The wet tyre is the better tyre to be on, it looks like. As we can see the McLaren coming together with Edward there. And Edward gets shoved off. Edward's got to be careful on the rejoin. Him and his teammates side by side. I wonder if that was due to the intermediates not working in these conditions. And Brandon then also trying to get past Edward. These two have had a rivalry one of the seasons ago, fighting for the championship. And Brand making the move very easy. He's got to watch out for the Red Bull. Loses the rear axle of the car there. And it runs into Edward and drops further behind the McLaren and Ushin. And the McLaren Ushin getting very close there. Ewan trying to get off the side pod. And hopefully this doesn't come together into a crash. And it doesn't, luckily, as Brand's trying to get around the outside. And he's going to make it potentially work. He's got the grip difference. He's going for it. And he has made the move stick. What a move there for the McLaren to lose against from Brand there. What a move from Brand. As we're back on board with the Williams pair of Edward and Lewis. But we're going on board with Lewis. It's almost a 3-car fight, almost a 4-car fight. Both Haas drivers getting involved. Tony getting involved here. And Tony round the outside, easier with the grip. And he's going for it. Tony could easily win this race. Cameron Young is under pressure. Has he made a mistake? Should he have pitted? I think he should have. But right at the moment, we can see a 3-car fight now. Lewis, Millam, Lee Kelly, almost 3 wide there at one point. And the Haas and the Williams still going side by side. That is between Millam and Lewis Curtis down the long straight. Millam goes into the slipstream. Curtis is using all the battery he can to try and pull away, to try and keep up with Tony on the wet weather tyre. The full wets then are working compared to the intermediates that we're seeing now. The other Williams making a move on Lee Kelly. And Lee Kelly gets shoved off a little bit there. Rejoins safely from ahead of the Red Bull. But right now then Cameron has already been overtaken. Tony into the lead. And Cameron is under threat now by Curtis. He's on the inside of Cameron. Makes the move stick, it looks like. Or is Cameron trying the switch? Gets a good run into it, but can't make it work. And we see a car off the track. That's the Red Bull of Toxic MML, who was the third at one point in this race. And he's now dropped to P9. At the moment then, Edward trying to salvage something in this race to try and get up a couple of positions, but Cameron Young is just not doing well on these inter conditions. He's now under threat by Millam, who's on a fresher set of inters, and it looks like they're working a lot better than the older set of inters in these wet conditions. Going for the dive, Cameron has to give him a bit of space, bit of contact there involved between the Haas and the AlphaTauri. That's not the first time Cameron has been in an altercation with the Haas team. You had an altercation with Lee shutting completely off the track, and Edward now coming out of nowhere makes the move, bit of contact yet again. Lee Kelly has caught it a day, and that's another VSC. Will lead to a full safety car, so that will help the intermediate runs peel into the pits. But Lee Kelly then has caught a day in these conditions, couldn't keep the car under control, and that is a shame there for Lee, as he was having a very good race at the start, but then as soon as the conditions changed, it fell apart for him, as Lewis Curtis then peels back into the pits then. So let's see what Lewis can do in the pit lane as Cameron stays out. So is he potentially thinking, oh, the inters may work again back in the window as the rain may die down later in this race? We don't know. We are on lap 22 out of 33. Lewis Curtis in the pit lane, not the only one. Brandon and Ewan also into the pits. And the Williams crew is setting a set of intermediates. Let's have a look at Brand's stop. Inters as well. And we're doing as well, inters as well, with a new front wing. Now, has that been an altercation with Lee Kelly? Because early on when I spectated, his front wing was fine, and Lee Kelly wasn't that far from when he rejoined. So, has there been a bit of contact on that front between those two drivers? Hopefully there hasn't been, and hopefully everyone's keeping it under control and clean. But, well, Ian and rejoins in 10th as we're on a full safety car. Tony stays on the wet. Same with Luke Baker. Maybe they're thinking, no, it's going to stay wet to the end of the race. We have the better tyre. We've got the better grip round here compared to Cameron, who's staying on his 11-lap-old intermediate tyre. And Edward then is looking for potential second place if he can get a move on Cameron. currently in third with a fresh set of intermediates, with Millam in fourth, as I said. Millam had a bit of contact with Cameron, had a bit of contact with Edward there. Didn't potentially see him going for the dive on the inside on the left-hander earlier on. But hopefully there's no love lost between the drivers, and hopefully they can show some more action-packed racing this weekend for pre-season. It is a shame there's only 10 people left. I wish there was more, but obviously some guys got spun around and they're too far back to catch up. But you should never give up in a race, as safety car could happen any time. But then Tony in the lead, starting at the back of the grid at the start of the race. He was last. He's now first. Positions he's gained. Let's have a look at the positions he's gained. 16 positions gained. The biggest loser in this race, and the one positions lost, is actually the person who retired was Charlie, but the guy who's still running the biggest loser is three drivers. It's Bran, Lewis Curtis and Toxic MML, as Millam has passed the Merc. No, the Merc must have passed him by mistake. And penalties then, so the only drivers who ain't got penalties is Edward and Ushin. No penalties at the moment. Luke Baker's got the most penalties with 8 seconds. Everybody else has only got 3 seconds worth of penalties. Earlier on though, it was Carfinger who had the most penalties, and then Lordy with the issue on the safety car getting DSQ'd. And Lewis Curtis has decided to stay on these inters, so he didn't make a mistake going on the intermediates. I thought he made a mistake staying out on the inters, and I think it was maybe the best call to do it actually, because the conditions are starting to lighten up. I have noticed. There's no sign of a blue sky or anything like that breaking the clouds or anything for potential dries maybe near the end of the race. But right now the conditions are starting to lighten up. So we see a potential intermediates being back in favour compared to the wet in these tricky conditions. Or will we later on in the race, late stages of the race, see some of the guys stay on the intermediates if it goes to slicks? As it can happen. We have seen it before where a late change in the race. We did see it one of these seasons when Matthew Oda was racing with CC Brain in Canada. Decided to switch to the intermediate tyres when I think there was only 4 laps remaining, and it worked wonders for both drivers to get both on the podium from almost not being on the podium. But I believe the safety car will go in next lap. I think it'll stay out for another lap due to Luke Baker not catching. No, it is going in, so it's a late call for the safety car. Tony then is getting ready on the wet weather compounded tyre. Has he made the mistake staying on him? He made a perfect strategy call when it was those conditions, but now he will be under threat by Cameron Young. Cameron is hungry and he will show his aggressive side if he needs to get the position through, but he's also got to watch out. He's got a lot of hungrier drivers behind him on the fresher set of rubber. But we're underway then on a lap number 23, beginning lap 24. Then Tony gets a cracker of a start and shows Cameron how it's done on the safety car restart then. And Edward is under threat by Millam in the background. Millam trying to go on the inside, letting him know in the mirrors that he's there. And we're going to go further behind. No contact, no altercation as Luke Baker passes you in then. Oh, as Luke Baker knew, and then had a bit of an issue, and there's a front wing on the track, actually. There is front wing on the track. Is that the McLarens? Or was that earlier on? I wonder if there's a bit of contact from earlier on. I'm not checking the drivers ahead. There's no front wings missing on any of the cars. Potentially the Red Bull. It could be the Red Bull, actually. It is the Red Bull. It's Toxic MML. He's had some wing damage on the left end plate, and now he's under threat by Ewan. Ewan takes the inside line, and the Red Bull just pulls off the track there to let him through, and that is a shame there. He was fighting for potential podium. Edward then making him round the outside on Cameron. The wet weather's still working. Wet weather tyres still working in these conditions, but soon the intermediates will start to come back to life compared to the wet weather tyres. Although Cameron drops to third position, and well, he's probably not going to be happy with that overtake. He wants to take the position back. But Edward is a very strong contender for this championship this season, so maybe he's showing Cameron that he's got to also watch out for him this season. As of right now, though, Millam getting into the mirrors of Cameron Young as well. Same with Lewis Curtis. Curtis is getting a solid run on the Haas now. He's almost in his gearbox as he's coming on at the exit there. Brilliant run. He's trying to get much slipstream as he can, but Cameron is aided Millam here with the slipstream. Isn't helping Curtis, former teammates. And it hasn't helped them But Lewis tries to go for the switch. Bit of contact between the Haas and the Williams. Oh, the Haas almost squeezes the Williams into the curb there. Could have ended into a bit of a carnage, but it keeps under control at the moment. Millam, Curse, side by side. But Millam holds the line on the outside, but Curse loses the rear end. Now this is potentially going to get Ocean involved. Not at the moment. Ocean was too far back, but look at Bran. Oh, and there's been a contact. Ocean whacks the end of the Williams, and that is definitely going to be some minor damage to the wing. And Luke Baker almost runs into the back of the Mercedes. And Mercedes gets a 5-second time penalty there. But exceeding track limits, that's a bit harsh. And Cameron Young gets another 3-second penalty. And he's really struggling for grip right now, as he's got 3 cars right behind him. Millam, Curtis, potentially Bran, and he's sliding all over the place. Maybe the dry setup isn't working in these conditions, but he's all over the place. And look at Millam, sends it and gets the move done. Just opens the door. Then for Lewis, Curtis, and Cameron is getting absolutely destroyed like a tin of soup at the moment, as he drops into 5th position, and his former rival Brandon Glover, who tried to fight for the championship last season against him, lost out to him, is hungrier than ever to get the position and prove that he can win this championship this season for the number round 1, which is next week on the 16th, as he's gone on the inside already and showing Cameron how it's done and how easier the grip is on his fresher intermediate tyres. So maybe it was a mistake for Cameron to stay on him, but we go up ahead as we see Lewis Curtis going for Lewis Millam, fighting for 3rd position. Both Williamses that look very strong contenders this season, potentially for the constructors at the moment, but Lewis Curtis then moves into 3rd position there. What a move there, and Millam drops to 4th. But Brandon then not that far off into this mix, and this is good for Cameron Young. He needs to stay within this mix, as I am having issues with my mic on my end. I'll try and fix that temporarily. as I do apologise. I've had my mic on mute for a bit. I've had issues with the mic. So do apologise for that. We'll get it fixed for the next round. But I have also been talking, I believe, while my mic has been muted as well, and I don't remember it being muted. But Millum then, trying to get past Bran, as I was saying. Millum's clawed the gap back up on Bran then, and Curse has basically pulled away to win this race. And Millum really heating up his tyres, really going for it, and he sends it then. Finally, Bran has to try and do something. Round the outside is Bran, going to the inside of the next corner. Could Millum have the grip advantage on the tyres he's got? And it's so close between these two. A bit of contact, a bit of wheel banging as Millum trying to get off Bran's side pod. As Lewis Curtis then is coming round the final corner. We're going to go on board with Lewis Curtis. We'll keep an eye on Bran and Millum as well. But Lewis Curtis takes the win at the pre-season round, and it's a Williams 1-2, so good result from them. And here comes Millum then, holds the line just from Bran then to take third. Maybe a bit of a conversation between that. The last couple of corners, a bit of contact there between them two. As Tony then tried the wet from last, good recovery for fifth. Ewan then takes fifth with Tony's penalty. Luke Baker then in seventh now. Oh, gets a penalty for the final lap of the last corner to finish seventh then. Toxic, who was looking very strong earlier on in this race. The mixed conditions kind of ruined it for him. And in the end, he loses the car completely and gets across the line in eighth. As Ushin then is the last driver to come across the line and in the Mercedes, currently in P9. And I can't say he's had too bad of a race, to be honest. He was there with a couple of moments, and maybe he's just thinking, well, it's just a pre-season round, I don't have to go full pace yet. But we'll have to wait and see what he can do for the first round in the Merc. And he's coming around the final corner then to finish the race for us. Oh, he almost loses the rear end, really putting the foot down. And comes to the line then to do a 1:28. And it finishes in P9 then, out of 18. As unfortunately the Cameron, I believe, didn't finish with the 90% rule. But in the end, driver day, Tony, and I can't disagree with that. Tony started at the back of the grid to finish in sixth in the end, so I think he did a very good job to get that driver there. But the people you've got to watch out for in this pre-season round is the Williams pairing of Lewis Curtis and Edward Hart there, both taking on the podium. Curtis beats Edward this time for first. Edward takes second, who's been a champion in IRL before, and Lewis Millum is looking very quick as well in the Haas. So the Haas have got a very strong team as well. But here is the podium celebrations for the Williams team and the Haas all together. A lot of drivers then potentially going to bring it up to Cameron then to see if he can hold his championship crown. Or will Lewis Millum, Edward Hart, or Curtis, or even Lee Kelly or Brandon Glover take that away from him? However then, here is your official pre-season race results then. So Lewis Curtis takes the win and doesn't get the fastest lap, obviously. We'll have to see who got the fastest lap then in the end. So Lewis Curtis takes the win. Edward Hart in second, Millum in third, Brandon Glover fourth, Ewan in fifth, 26th, Luke Baker seventh, not bad from 15th. Toxic, disappointing Dave, it was on first and then dropped to eighth. Then Ushin ninth, Cameron Young in 10th, the defending champion. Had a good day in the race, very strong up front, but in the end called it a day, finished in 10th. Then Lee, Cam, Carrot, Ross, Ferguson Wilson, Charlie, and Joss and Lodi. Or DNF. Lodi got DSQ'd obviously due to the game, but like he says, DNF in the end. But well then, that has been the pre-season round then at Portugal. I said, do get ready for round number one, which is on the 16th of July, which the first round is Austria. Austria is the first round of the season, which will be an action-packed race. Hopefully we can have a full grid. That's what we need, is a full grid at Austria. A lot of racing, a lot of action-packed. Maybe a couple of crashes, maybe some carnage between some of the quicker guys up front for maybe some of the slower guys to get some good solid points. But enough of that. Pre-season happened. It was a very fun race to commentate. I will obviously have a new mic for the actual first round due to issues I'm having with the headset. But I have been your commentator, Ionian, or as Jared Fosbury. And I've got to thank IRL again for a good pre-season round. And also, as I said at the start of the stream, if you are interested in signing up for this tier, or even potentially a second tier for F2, do let IRL know on the Twitter, or send a message on the YouTube channel, or contact in Discord and sign up as soon as possible, as we're all looking for a potential second tier in progress. But until then, July the 16th, I'll see you guys then. Goodbye for now.